What is going on, guys? I got a good feeling we are going to have a fantastic draft today. I'm back at it in Best Ball Mania 3 today. Going to be live on YouTube and TikTok, talking through every single pick of the draft. We're waiting for 10 people to enter. Hope everyone's having a fantastic Thursday. I got a good feeling about this one. I got a good feeling about today's draft. This could be the one where we take home a $2 million first place prize. If you're watching live on TikTok, you'll be able to see the draft board live on YouTube. As always, we are going to be getting started very soon. How's it going, everyone? Appreciate you hopping in. There's been a lot of NFL news trickling down the stream. The NBA is over. The NHL is over. It is July. It is officially fantasy football season. Good evening. What are your thoughts on Herbert this year, plus the potential stack of Williams, Eckler, or Allen? Justin Herbert is a top 6 quarterback this season. He's getting drafted, though, often as the number 2 quarterback in fantasy drafts. And that's tough for me to pull the trigger on when you can get Kyler Murray. You can get Jalen Hurts a full 3 rounds later in some drafts. So I have not drafted very much Justin Herbert. That being said, certainly is a top 3 MVP candidate in terms of the betting odds. It would not shock me if he leads the league in passing yards. The dude is a stud. So I do like stacking him with Eckler, with Allen, with Williams. For me, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen are much different in best ball versus season-long leagues. Mike Williams is going to have 30-point weeks, but he's also going to have 5-point weeks. Keenan Allen, on the other hand, is going to score over 10 in almost every single week, but he might not have very many 30-point weeks. That's okay, though. And it's better in season long to be that consistent. So those are my thoughts. I wouldn't stack all 4 of them together, though. I'd probably only go with 3. Hey, Sam, how do you feel about DJ Moore with Baker now? Yeah, Baker Mayfield. Free Baker Mayfield. CMC at 2. Yeah, CMC at 2. Hell, I would take CMC at 1. I've been taking Jonathan Taylor over CMC. But, yeah, you got to take him at 2. I've been saying this for over a month now. We're live on YouTube and TikTok, by the way. Go to WalterPicks on YouTube. You can see the live draft board. I'm literally entering a draft. There's 5 people that need to join, and then we're in. And it's a $2 million first place prize. I got a good feeling about how I'm going to draft today. So head over to YouTube if you want to see the draft board live. That draft's about to start. And yeah, if I have the second overall pick in this draft, I will be taking Christian McCaffrey. I'll strongly consider him at number 1, even though he comes with risk. CMC comes with risk, yes. But the risk-reward ratio is maximum for Christian McCaffrey because the reward for a full 16 games of Christian McCaffrey is a fantasy football title. That's just the bottom line. He scores fantasy points differently than other people. Going back to DJ Moore, though, I think DJ Moore is actually the guy that benefits the most from this Baker Mayfield news. I think CMC is still going to eat, but DJ Moore, you can definitely argue this is the best quarterback he's had since Cam Newton, and that was when he was back as a rookie, I think in his second year as well. So yeah, this is wheels up for DJ Moore. We moved him up our rankings a little bit recently after that news. And ultimately, this is good overall for the Panthers. I mean, they got him for literally nothing. And their other option was Sam Darnold, who we know is not it. Thoughts on where CMC should go? Yeah, I think he should go 1 or 2 in every single draft. And I actually did my first season-long Yahoo draft last night. I know, very early. And I got Christian McCaffrey at 5th overall in that draft. So he's going to be sliding in traditional season-long leagues. If you're in leagues with friends that draft scared, you're going to have a chance to get Christian McCaffrey outside of the top 3 picks. This is going to happen in tons of leagues. And these are the leagues where I really want to be, pick number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And if I can get Christian McCaffrey at any of those spots, I mean, that's absolute money. I think there is a pretty good argument for Cooper Kupp to go 2nd overall as well. I would argue Cooper Kupp is safer than Christian McCaffrey, but he doesn't have as high of league-winning upside as Christian McCaffrey. He plays wide receiver. There's less stud running backs than there is stud wide receivers. And let's not also expect Cooper Kupp to repeat the best fantasy wide receiver season of all time in PPR leagues. Hey, how have you been doing? Jen, I've been doing absolutely fantastic because we're finally heating up in fantasy season. It is fantasy season. It is mid-July. This is when the future fantasy football champions of this season start preparing for the fantasy football season. That's just a fact. If you're not preparing by really like August 1st, then you're probably going to get crushed by everyone that actually prepared for the fantasy season. We back with a second pick. Would you go Deebo Samuel? Yeah, I would, or AK. I'm assuming that means Alvin Kamara. I definitely would go Deebo over Kamara right now with the lingering suspension. So the latest on Alvin Kamara, as far as I have heard, is there's a very bad video of Alvin Kamara assaulting someone, and it hasn't been released to the public yet. It's unclear if it will be released to the public, but it does exist. And when it does get released to the public, whenever that happens, it's almost a definite suspension for Alvin Kamara, just based on the backlash that's going to come from public perception with the NFL. So I am expecting him to get suspended, but there's also a chance that doesn't happen until next season. And I got the last pick in the draft, everyone. We are live on YouTube. Come watch the YouTube live. If you want to see me in a real live draft that's literally about to start in 60 seconds, look up WalterPicks on YouTube, or just click the link in the TikTok bio. There's a link to the YouTube there as well. This man spits facts. Listen up and take notes. Love Nick Sperry. What's going on, man? Love to see you in the chat. Thoughts on Dalvin? Yeah, I'm really excited about really the whole Vikings team, and Dalvin Cook's definitely included in that. There's a lot of optimism that the Vikings are going to throw more this season. And that's going to be a good thing for fantasy purposes for all players, especially in PPR leagues. Justin Jefferson, I think, has a very good argument to be the number one overall receiver this season. He's really had the best 2 years to start an NFL career in the history of the NFL. And I don't say that lightly. So, yeah, Justin Jefferson is going to eat in a more pass-friendly offense, too. I mean, this guy really is the limit for Justin Jefferson. Dalvin Cook, I do think, is going to get a lot more receptions this season as well. I'd like him in the back end of the first round, though, like middle back end of the first round. I think there's a pretty strong argument for him over Najee Harris, who's probably going to touch the ball more than Dalvin Cook, but won't be nearly as efficient. By the way, this draft just started, and the first overall pick, I hope this person was listening to the live, was Christian McCaffrey. And the second overall pick was Cooper Kupp. Again, you can watch that draft board live on YouTube if you come to the link in the TikTok bio, or you look up WalterPicks on YouTube. If you are watching live on YouTube, smash the like button and hit the subscribe button. I really do appreciate it. The buy-in of this draft was $25. This is a tournament, though, with hundreds of thousands of people. So if I win this league, then I compete against the winners of those leagues for a $2 million prize. And that's what I'm doing in this draft. I have the 12th overall pick. We'll see who ends up falling. But that is the plan in this draft. So, yeah, it was a $25 entry fee. Where should Kenneth Walker be drafted in rookie drafts? In rookie drafts, I mean, he really, I think, should be top 5. I'm a big Kenneth Walker fan. I think both Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker are going to be extremely efficient in the NFL, just like they were in college. I'm very bullish on both. Obviously, they landed in pretty tough spots in terms of the offenses that they're going to be playing in. I'm more confident in the Jets offense than I am the Seahawks offense heading into this season. And my bold prediction, I'm doing a series on TikTok, a bold prediction for every single team. My very first bold prediction for my very first team was that the Seahawks won't win a game this season. And I actually think the Baker Mayfield trade elsewhere keeps that alive. So that's the only concern I have for Kenneth Walker. But he's going to be on a team that runs a lot, and he's going to be hyper efficient. He probably won't get very much receiving work, though. He's going to be like a Nick Chubb with less touches is my take on Kenneth Walker. But you're getting him pretty late in redraft leagues. But yeah, in rookie drafts, I definitely want both Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker very early in dynasty drafts. Where should Deebo go? Worth a keeper with his disinterest. Yeah, I think he's going to play this season, so I do think he's worth a keeper. He's going to go in this draft that I'm doing right now. He's going to go in the second round. Again, if you are watching live on TikTok, you can't see the draft live on YouTube. All right, I'm on the clock. Travis Kelce just got snagged. I'm not loving the board here, and I think I'm going to listen to Lions.WalterPicks, Curtis, our Lions creator, and snag DeAndre Swift with my first pick here. And I really, really want to be taking Saquon Barkley with this pick, but it's just so tough to take him over Joe Mixon and Aaron Jones. So I think I'm going to go with Devontae Adams instead. Grab my first receiver. I want Saquon Barkley for a lot of the same reasons that I want Christian McCaffrey. It's a little bit early for me to be taking Saquon. He's probably going to go like 6 picks from now in the middle of the second round. But Saquon Barkley and Christian McCaffrey, by all reports right now, are 100% fully healthy, in some of the best health they've been in the last 3 years. And if they do have a healthy season, you're going to win fantasy leagues if you have them. They both have shown to be able to function on bad offenses and still put up 20 plus fantasy points a week. Who are you taking with the third pick, assuming Taylor and CMC went top 2? I'm taking Cooper Kupp or Justin Jefferson. I think those two should honestly be the next 2 picks in every fantasy draft after Christian McCaffrey, after Jonathan Taylor are off the board. I think you can make an argument for Derrick Henry. He obviously has some health concerns as well, but those to me are the top 5. Bro, tell me about D Cook, and with his injury history, why is he still first round? Yeah, he went first round in this draft. He was going more like beginning of the second round, only a few weeks ago in these drafts. But it's because it's because of the upside in an offense that's supposed to pass more. That's really why you're drafting Dalvin Cook. If you had to choose between Najee or Swift, who do you take? You have to go with Najee. You have to go with Najee Harris. I think you have to go with Najee Harris solely because he's going to touch the ball more this season, like by a lot. DeAndre Swift, though, will likely catch more passes than Najee Harris if they both stay healthy for a season. Najee, to me, is one of the safest but sort of least exciting picks in fantasy football, right? You know he's going to be on an offense that's bottom half of the league, and you know he does not have breakaway speed. He had very, very few carries, if any, over 20 yards last season. He's not going to have the 30-plus point games that DeAndre Swift can have, that Dalvin Cook can have, that Saquon Barkley can have, that Aaron Jones and Christian McCaffrey and Jonathan Taylor can have. He's not going to have those weeks, but he is going to get 20-plus touches a game and likely score 10, 15 at least fantasy points every single week. And that matters. I think that is valuable. But I would argue DeAndre Swift has a higher ceiling. Najee Harris, I would say, has one of the safest floors because he has 0 injury history and he's extremely young. And he led the league in touches last season. This is a best ball league, Jet. This means after the draft, there's no in-season management of this league. My best lineup is automatically submitted for me at the end of each week. And there's no adding, dropping, trading, start, sit, nothing. So all you do is the draft. Which is why roster construction is critical. That's why I've done a lot of research into best ball roster construction. That's why I'm max entering this tournament, $25 an entry, 150 entries into this tournament. Why I'm going for the $2 million prize, because I know what the best roster construction is. You want either 5 or 6 running backs, 7 to 9 wide receivers, and then 2 or 3 quarterbacks and tight ends. Usually 3 tight ends, 2 quarterbacks is ideal. I also know what rounds is optimal to target these positions. And you'll see that throughout this draft. But yeah, this is a best ball format. This is my batting practice for the high stakes season-long leagues that I'll do once the season gets a little bit closer. Which Broncos wide receiver should go first? Right now, it's Courtland Sutton. I believe on Underdog and on DraftKings. But it wouldn't shock me if that flips at some point closer to the season. If there's been some reports that Jerry Jeudy missed some of OTAs with some injuries, which obviously isn't great when you're first integrating with a new quarterback. But I would argue for Jerry Jeudy over Courtland Sutton. James Conner looking good this year. Yeah, he was amazing last year. And Chase Edmonds left. And Eno Benjamin will not be as good as Chase Edmonds. They did sign Darrell Williams. He's also not as good as Chase Edmonds. So you got to feel pretty good about James Conner with easier competition in really like the same offense that he was in last season, where he finished as a top 10 running back in all formats. So yeah, you got to like James Conner. He just went in the 3rd round in the draft I'm doing now. Josh Allen has been very consistently the first quarterback off the board. There's only been 1 tight end drafted. We're in the middle of the 3rd round. Again, if you're watching live on TikTok, you can watch live on YouTube. I will try to get to the comments throughout the draft. It's nice having the 12th pick because you got a lot of time in between picks. So we can hit the comments in between picks. Where if you are going to, do you take Michael Thomas? I am taking Michael Thomas. But it needs to be like round 7. Ideally, Michael Thomas is my first bench player. Like I don't want to have Michael Thomas slid into the starting fantasy lineup. After I've drafted my starters, though, there's very few players on the board with higher upside than Michael Thomas. And I've said all offseason, I've actually been saying this for 2 years. I just need to see Michael Thomas on a football field, running routes, playing, in practicing, in full. And he's getting very close to that. He is running full routes now. I'm on the board, and Keenan Allen slid very far to me in this draft. So I absolutely will happily take him. And now I'm in a spot that I probably wouldn't do this in a season-long league, but I'm competing against tens of thousands of people in this league. And so I'm going to take Ezekiel Elliott as my second running back in this draft. And remember, I'm only going to draft 5 or 6 running backs. This is an 18-round draft. So you got to lock in some guys that have the chance to get a lot of volume. And Zeke is in an offense that should be top 5 in points scored this season. He, by all reports, is also fully healthy. And there's no Amari Cooper this season, which potentially means more targets for Ezekiel Elliott. Thoughts on the Bengals? Yeah, their offensive line got better, like a lot better this season. And that was the pretty clear weakness for the Bengals last year. Before the offseason, I was of the mindset that, the Bengals playoff run was a little bit fluky, and they actually had a better chance not to make the playoffs than to make the playoffs this season. But with the improvements to the offensive line, the Bengals offense is going to cook this season. And I would be surprised if they didn't make the playoffs this year. Who got winning the AFC North and West? So I actually have the Baltimore Ravens winning the AFC North. The AFC West, I think, is going to be extremely tight. It's probably the best division in football that I've ever seen. But I will almost always side with Patrick Mahomes when making predictions. That's sort of something I've already decided for his entire career. I'll probably lean towards the Chiefs. I don't think they're the favorites, though, this season. But yeah, I got the Ravens. The Ravens were the most injured team in football last year by a lot. And their defense got better this offseason with the additions they made. I think they have a top 5 defense and a top 5 offense. And I think generally people just trash on Lamar too much and don't realize how good he actually is with his rushing ability, the best rushing quarterback in the history of the NFL. So I'm bullish on the Ravens for sure. I'd rather take Zeke if he falls past ADP a bit. Yeah. So where did I get him versus ADP? I think it was a little bit before ADP. Yes, ADP was 39. I took him at 37. So, but it's tough when you have the 12th pick, and not, you do want to lock in at least 2 running backs in this format in your first 4 picks. And I'm feeling pretty good about the 2 receivers that I landed here as well. Devontae Adams and Keenan Allen both have top 12 upside. Guys, if you're watching live on YouTube, I really do appreciate it. And it's nice for you to be able to see the draft board. Hit the like button and subscribe button if you haven't yet. We're trying to hit 10,000 YouTube subscribers this season. What is up, Sam? What's going on, man? Yo, man, you got to get into sports betting. Something tells me you would be a genius. Yeah, for the sports betting side of things, I really stick to player props. Like I really, NFL player props is where like 90 to 95% of my money bet on sports goes. Every year, I've been profitable for the last 3 seasons with player props, and I follow the player props presented in the WalterPicks app, which is an app that I've been working on for the last 3 years and is powered by Walter, our AI algorithm. And yeah, so the player props are very, very exploitable, and they have been really for the last 3 years that I've been doing it. What round Javonte, half PPR? So I'm in a draft right now live over on YouTube. You can look at WalterPicks if you want to see the draft board. But Javonte Williams went in the very beginning of the 3rd round in this draft. I've seen him go in the back end of the 2nd round. I haven't really seen him fall very much past the middle of the 3rd round. And for obvious reason, Javonte Williams has league-winning upside, right? He was one of the most efficient running backs in the league last year. He's one of the few running backs that had at least 5 touches in every single game last year. He almost always scored over 10 fantasy points last year, and that was with half of the work in what was a much worse offense than it will be this year with Russ in town in Denver. So yeah, there's a lot of excitement about Javonte Williams. All that being said, though, Melvin Gordon is back, and Melvin Gordon will vulture touchdowns, and he will limit his ceiling. He will limit Javonte Williams' ceiling a lot. There is a new coaching staff there, though, as well, and so there's a chance that the roles aren't quite the same. I don't hate Javonte Williams in the middle of the 3rd round. I think the upside is there. I also think the upside, though, is there with Melvin Gordon, with where his average draft position is, which is close to like 8th, 9th round. Because Melvin Gordon is also going to be part of what I expect to be a significantly better offense than last year. Would 0 running back be the best strategy this year? And then we get another person saying, no, LOL, there's like 12 good running backs. And I sort of agree. I sort of agree with the comment that 0 running back is a very high-risk strategy. I think, honestly, 0 running back is the premise of anti-fragility, which is what it's based off of. I've actually read the book twice called Anti-Fragile, which is what 0 running back is based off. Highly recommend the book. But essentially, your team gains from the disorder in the league of injuries. And I think it can do well in a format like this where you're competing against tens of thousands of people. I don't think it's as good in your traditional season-long league to open yourself up to so much risk without taking the running back early. That being said, if I was going 0 running back, and I will do a few 0 running back drafts throughout the year, I'm aiming for Breece Hall in the 4th round. I would be aiming for Kenneth Walker as well in the 7th, 8th round. I want guys that can be workhorse running backs. I'm aiming for AJ Dillon, absolutely. Like if you're going zero RB, you need at least one of Brees Hall, AJ Dillon, Tony Pollard, probably Alexander Madison would be on that list as well, and Kenneth Walker. Like all those guys you can get in the fourth or usually fifth round or later. So you can stack up 3 wide receivers, maybe one of the top tight ends or quarterbacks, then start drafting running backs. But I wouldn't wait like too long. You need guys that still have a path to be top 12 running backs in fantasy. Yeah, exactly, Paul. This is why best ball is the best. And I'm on the clock, and I just timed out, but I got Juju, which is not the worst thing in the world. I going to take Kyler Murray as well. I've been drafting Kyler and Jalen Hurts a decent amount, but I absolutely love getting Kyler Murray in the 6th. Kyler Murray or Jalen Hurts. If they're falling to the 6th round, yeah, I will take that all day. Both guys have a chance to be the number 1 overall fantasy football quarterback with their rushing upside. They probably won't be able to beat out Josh Allen or Lamar, but they definitely could beat out Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes, who went a full 2 rounds earlier in this draft because of their rushing ability that Justin Herbert and Mahomes just don't have as much of. I also don't hate this Juju pick that I was just auto drafted. He is likely going to be number 2 in targets on the Chiefs this season. And that alone, I think, warrants a 5th round price tag for Juju Smith-Schuster. I probably would prefer Darnell Mooney, but I actually think he was already picked. Where was Darnell Mooney picked in this draft? Let's see. Yeah, 2 picks before. I absolutely love Darnell Mooney. We have Darnell Mooney ranked as a top 15 wide receiver this season. He was top 12 in air yards last year. That was with Allen Robinson on the team. He also has very good splits in the games where Justin Fields didn't play. And in those games, he's playing with Andy Dalton. I believe that if Justin Fields can just improve just slightly, just a slight improvement from Justin Fields, and Darnell Mooney is going to smash his 5th round average draft position. He'll probably be a top 12 wide receiver at the end of the year if he stays healthy and Justin Fields just improves just a small amount. He also was, I think, top 10 in the league in air yard share last year. Like Rojo in zero running back 2. Yeah, I just saw that report about Ronald Jones today, or just recently, like 30 minutes ago. I was reading that Ronald Jones could beat out Clyde Edwards-Helaire for the starting running back job with the Kansas City Chiefs. And man, would that be the story of Clyde Edwards-Helaire's career? Like this, Ronald Jones is really not very good, but he is on the Chiefs, and he could actually see a path to volume. Yeah, he definitely is a good zero running back candidate in a backfield where Clyde Edwards-Helaire is really, he has failed to impress his entire career, really outside of his very first game against the Texans a few years ago. But Clyde is also one of the guys that this is his first real healthy offseason. So hopefully that bodes well for him. I would argue Clyde is actually a better zero RB target than Ronald Jones. I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is more likely in that archetype that could actually win your league than Ronald Jones is. Ronald Jones is not a very good receiver. Clyde at least can get 3 or 4 catches in a game. Do you wish you took Hollywood over Zeke, knowing you got Kyler? Yeah, I do. I do love the Marquise Brown, Kyler Murray stack, though. I also just looking at my roster now. I'm glad I have 2 running backs because if I had less than 2 running backs, I would be in some serious trouble. I'm going to need to draft 5 running backs, and if you take a look at the running backs left on the board right now, if you're watching live on YouTube, you're seeing Antonio Gibson has been sliding, by the way, a ton, but these are a much lower tier of running back than throughout the rest of the draft. I will strongly consider, though, all 3 of these guys. I also think as Cordell Patterson continues to fall, there's some report recently, and really the reports this time of year, they're not actually reports. They're writing about some beat writer's just opinion. And some beat writer wrote, don't expect Cordell Patterson to get a full load this season. He didn't get a full load last season. He is also supposedly going to be used more at the wide receiver position for a really depleted Atlanta Falcons wide receiver group. Go look up the depth chart for the Atlanta Falcons, and Bryan Edwards is looking like he actually could be the number 2 or number 3 receiver on the team. And he was just traded for a 7th round pick. So that sort of tells you all you need to know about the Falcons receivers. So you want running backs that catch passes, and Cordell Patterson is one of those running backs. So getting him outside the top 100 picks, I think, is an absolute steal in fantasy right now. WalterPicks, my league uses draft pick trading before the draft, not dynasty. Yeah, that's absolute money. And every elite league, I think, does this. Why would you not allow this? The only reason you wouldn't allow trading of draft picks before your season-long league is if you just know people will get fleeced because then it will just make the league too lopsided. Does your trade analyzer grade those trades? No, we don't have the ability to analyze the trading of picks. But if you put in the players you think you would get, like that's what I would do, and that's how I think about it when I trade picks in leagues. And I will always try to trade back. Usually, my goal when I trade picks is typically to be the first person in my league to finish my starting lineup. So I'll trade my first round pick for like 2/3 or 2/4 or a third and a fourth, like trying to get as many picks as early as possible to hit whatever 7, 8, 9 starters you have in your draft. That's typically how I approach it. I like trading back so I can get more swings at really good players in like the first 6 rounds. But that's what I would do when I'm thinking about it. Like, all right, I'm trading a guy, like pick a guy that you would want at the pick you're trading, and then see what you think you could get in return. And then you can put that into the trade analyzer and see if it makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense. Where do you rank Mixon? I think we have Mixon ranked like at the back end of the top 12, which is actually behind where he's at in terms of average draft position. And he's a tough one for me to gauge because his offensive line did get much better this offseason. Like I think he could score more touchdowns than he had last year. And I think he was top 3 in the league in touchdowns last season. But if he doesn't score more touchdowns, it's going to be hard for him to replicate what he did last year because he's supposedly not going to play on third downs this season. All right, I'm back on the clock, and I took Tony Pollard even though I already had Zeke, which I honestly I don't hate and I don't love either. But I'm going to take another running back as well, and I'm going to go with Kenneth Walker over Damian Harris over Kareem Hunt because the upside is higher for Kenneth Walker than it is for Kareem Hunt and Damian Harris. What about Hopkins? Yeah, DeAndre Hopkins is a guy that I have been actually drafting a decent amount. We see in this draft, Michael Thomas and DeAndre Hopkins, they've been going really close together, which is pretty fascinating when you think about the career arcs for both guys, both going in the 7th round. Michael Thomas and DeAndre Hopkins, Hopkins, definitely a Hall of Famer. Michael Thomas, I would argue, is a Hall of Famer as well. Going back to back in the 7th round at the tail end of their careers. DeAndre Hopkins obviously suspended for 6 games. Michael Thomas hasn't played in 2 years. But Michael Thomas there's videos of him running full speed routes. He's probably going to be full go for training camp. And when that happens, I expect Michael Thomas's ADP to shoot ahead to like round 5. As soon as we see him, like even if he's just a route in a preseason game, that's really all people I think will need to see to go back to trusting Michael Thomas in fantasy. So I probably would prefer, once Michael Thomas practices, I'll definitely prefer him. But Hopkins is going to be suspended 6 games. But that only half the fantasy season. And when he comes back, he's going to be a top 12 wide receiver in fantasy, just like he was in a down year last year for Michael Thomas. He was a top, I think he was at worst a wide receiver too. Let me pull up his actual numbers here. But he really had a bad season last year, was struggling through some injuries throughout the year. Yeah, he averaged 14.7 fantasy points per game, which really is back end wide receiver 1 territory. And that was a down year for him. He didn't score very many touchdowns. He was in and out of the lineup. And I think he could do better than that this year, even with Marquise Hollywood Brown in the mix. So I do like him in the 7th round. Best balling. Yeah, we're best balling. We did another Best Ball Mania 3 entry. I'm max entering this tournament. I'm very excited about max entering it. I feel much better about my strategy going into this season than what my strategy was last year, which was extremely hyper fragile running back strategy. I'm drafting at least 5, at most 7 running backs in every draft this year, which I'm feeling good about. Do I trade Keenan for Rashad Bateman? I would not do that. No, just look at where they got drafted in this draft. Keenan Allen, I took at the back end of the 3rd round, which was actually later than his average draft position. Usually he's going like middle of the 3rd round. And Rashad Bateman didn't go till the 5th. I actually love Rashad Bateman. It wouldn't be shocked if Bateman outscores Keenan, but Keenan Allen's with Justin Herbert, who's absolutely a better QB to have than Lamar Jackson for receiver. Yeah, Rashad Bateman, though, is a good sleeper. And like I will happily draft him where he got drafted in this draft in the 5th round. Rashad Bateman and Darnell Mooney, to me, these 2 guys, they are the reason you probably should be drafting running backs in the first 3 rounds, because then you can still get Darnell Mooney. You can still get Rashad Bateman, who definitely have a chance to be wide receiver 1s and consistent wide receiver 1s this season. And both guys, I mean, they have no competition, like absolutely zero competition. Rashad Bateman obviously has Mark Andrews, and Mark Andrews is likely going to be a top 3 tight end again. But there's no Hollywood Brown to compete with this season. He's competing with Devin Duvernay and James Prochet. I mean, these guys are like 4 or 5 tiers below what Rashad Bateman is as a receiver. So there's no way outside of Mark Andrews anyone out targets Rashad Bateman. And it's even easier for Darnell Mooney, who really his top target competition is Cole Kmet. I mean, who's not even close to on the level of Mark Andrews. So I like both guys a lot. I do think for Darnell Mooney to succeed, though, Justin Fields, he just has to just improve just slightly, just a little bit better, a little bit more accuracy out of Justin Fields, and Darnell Mooney will be a top 12 wide receiver. Yeah, so there's always that this counter argument that actually the lack of competition leads to more double teams in hard matchups. I would argue actually that arguably matters less with guys like Lamar Jackson and Justin Fields who will run around a lot. But the thing is, volume is the most important thing. And so if you are more confident about someone's target share, it is actually better to have less competition. But there are some scenarios, like there's definitely scenarios you can point back to where two elite receivers play better together than apart. And that's certainly a thing. And it is harder to double team players. And I actually think we could see that a little bit with Travis Kelce this season, getting a lot more double teams than he was used to when he was playing along Tyreek Hill. But I still wouldn't fade him because of that, because he's still going to get a lot of volume. So yeah, I think there's sort of a double-edged sword there. You can argue both sides, but I tend to lean towards less competition is better. There's just a clearer path to touches for guys when making projections. What few wide receivers should I take with Dalvin, Fournette, James Conner? Yeah, you go get Rashad Bateman, go get Darnell Mooney in your drafts. Hopkins is getting older, which scares me. Yeah, I mean this is definitely a fair concern. And he's struggled with injuries, more frequently now than he did earlier on in his career when he was extremely durable. So I understand the concern. All right, I'm going to be back on the clock. I have not taken a tight end yet. I do have Kyler Murray, so I don't hate this Kyler Murray Zach Ertz stack to kick off my first tight end. I could use another receiver. I also could use another running back. I don't really love Marquez Valdes-Scantling. He's the best receiver available based on ADP. I haven't drafted him very much though, so I actually will take him with this pick. And he did. There were reports. I also did get Juju, so I like stacking the Chiefs receivers. The reason you want to stack receivers, a lot of people don't do this, but the reason you want to stack receivers, not just wide receiver quarterback stacks, but actually double receiver stacks, is it increases your team's chance of scoring a touchdown each week. If you think about if Juju Smith-Schuster doesn't score a touchdown, then there's a likely chance that a higher likelihood that Marquez Valdes-Scantling did score a touchdown. So it actually increases your odds overall of touchdowns, especially on a team like the Chiefs, who, I mean, Mahomes is going to throw close to 40 plus touchdowns this season. So I do like stacking what should be the top two receivers for the Chiefs this season. Like we just drafted Tyreek Hill's replacements, more or less. I do like that strat. What do you think about Breece Hall and third rounder for Amon-Ra St. Brown? Yeah, I definitely would take the Breece Hall side of that equation. Look at where Amon-Ra St. Brown went in this draft. I think it was relatively close to where Breece Hall went. Let's take a look. I actually think Breece Hall might have gone before. Yeah, Amon-Ra St. Brown went in the 6th round. Breece Hall went in the 4th round. So yeah, Breece Hall also Breece Hall plays the running back position. Let's talk about Breece Hall for a second because he is on the Jets, and that's not good. It's similar with it's better than Kenneth Walker on the Seahawks, who are really, really, really bad. Going to be really bad on offense this year. Outside of Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, the team is really, really depleted of talent on the offensive line and at every other skill position. For like running back, wide receivers, they have, but you need a quarterback in the offensive line to move the ball. But for Breece Hall, the Jets will get better this season. They'll probably still be a bottom half offense from like the beginning part of the season, especially as these rookies sort of get acclimated to the NFL. But Breece Hall has the profile to be a league-winning running back. He checks every single box. He is a Saquon Barkley type prospect, which I say in the best way possible. A lot of people are like, "Oh no, he's like Saquon Barkley. That means he's going to get hurt." No, he doesn't have any injury history. He's like the prototype of Saquon. Like he has the speed, the size-adjusted athleticism of Saquon Barkley. He has the shiftiness of Saquon Barkley, but he has no injury history. So he really is the prototypical league-winning rookie running back. And he does have some competition with Michael Carter. Michael Carter is good. I do like Michael Carter. He will definitely spell Breece Hall at times. But I think it won't, like, you don't need a Michael Carter injury, I don't think, for the best case scenario for Breece Hall, which is winning your league, especially in half PPR and PPR formats. Breece Hall broke the record the college football record for the most touchdowns scored in a row. I think it was 24 or 25 consecutive games with a touchdown. And there were tons of top 10, top 15 college football teams that he played against in that span. The dude has a nose for the end zone, and he's just impossible to tackle in open space, similar to a healthy Saquon Barkley. So, yeah, I do like Breece Hall, and I do think he's going to help the Jets. I also think Garrett Wilson, he's going to be big for the Jets. The Jets certainly got better this offseason. Justin Fields goes in the 11th round. I think that's an absolutely great best ball pick. Round 11, you're getting a guy who has a pretty good shot to be top 5 in rushing yards this season at the quarterback position. And we know rushing is a cheat code in fantasy football at the quarterback position. You want running backs that catch and quarterbacks that run. Which top wide receiver should I trade for with Dalvin, Fournette, and James Conner? I have T. Higgins, DJ Moore. Yeah, I mean, really any of the top receivers in the first 2 rounds here, I absolutely love. Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Stephon Diggs are probably in their own tier. And then I would say the second tier is sort of everyone up till A.J. Brown. I think A.J. Brown should be included in that second tier. He is going to be on a run-first offense. But, guys, A.J. Brown's going to have some absolutely monster weeks this season if he's healthy. Obviously, the health is the biggest thing for A.J. Brown. I think it's honestly why he was traded. But if he is healthy, I think this A.J. Brown trade, we're going to look back at this A.J. Brown trade, and it's going to be compared to the Randy Moss trade, where Randy Moss was traded in his prime of his career and then absolutely exploded on the Patriots. Like that definitely could be what happens with A.J. Brown. I think A.J. Brown is that good, but the Eagles will probably be top 5 in rush percentage. So there's a balance there. That's why I think he is sort of at the end of that second tier. But yeah, any of those guys, T. Higgins, Deebo Samuel, Mike Evans, Tyreek Hill, can you join the mock draft? This is not a mock draft. This is a real draft. I'm doing a real $25 best ball draft over on Underdog right now, and you can watch the live draft board over on YouTube. We're in the 11th round right now. My team is coming together, though it definitely needs some pieces still. I only have 1 quarterback, 1 tight end, and I stacked them together, Kyler Murray and Zach Ertz. I have 4 wide receivers, 2 of the top 2 Chiefs receivers, Juju and Marquez Valdes-Scantling. But I also have Devontae Adams and Keenan Allen, very 2 good, safe receivers to start with. And then at the running back position, I got DeAndre Swift. I stacked Zeke and Tony Pollard, which I don't really love doing. But I also don't hate getting the entire Cowboys backfield. I do think they're going to be top 5 in points scored this season. They have a great offensive line. I do think Tony Pollard, too, does have standalone value. Like Zeke can have a 20-point week and Tony Pollard can have a 10-point week in the same week. That is possible. So they're not the worst 2 running backs to be stacking. And then I also have Kenneth Walker, who is a hyper-efficient runner in a very bad situation. But we saw Rashad Penny be really efficient in a bad situation last year. It will be worse for the Seahawks this season, though. But I do like Kenneth Walker's talent, and I'm betting on the talent by taking him in the 8th round. DK Metcalf and Freiermuth or Kittle and Dobbins. Yeah, I'd probably go Kittle and Dobbins over DK Metcalf and Muth. I mean, Drew Lock is not going to be better for DK Metcalf than what Russ was. All right, I'm back on the clock. Let's see what's available here. I will snag Rondale Moore to continue the Kyler Murray stack. I usually wouldn't draft Rondale Moore, but I did draft Kyler Murray already. And I think I'm going to go with my second QB here in Trevor Lawrence. One of the reasons I love Trevor Lawrence this year is we have Adam Gase effect 2.0 coming into play this season. The Adam Gase effect, if you don't recall, when Adam Gase was the clear and obvious worst coach in the league for an extended period of time, he went everywhere he left. You automatically saw an increase in efficiency on that team because Adam Gase has dragged everybody down. It's going to be a very similar thing with Urban Meyer this year. Like the Jaguars don't need to really do anything, and they're automatically going to be more efficient because Urban Meyer is not sucking the life out of the Jaguars this season. But on top of that, Trevor Lawrence is heading into year 2. He was the first overall draft pick, and he has substantially better weapons this year than he did last year. No matter what you think about the contract Christian Kirk got, he is the best weapon that Trevor Lawrence has had. So I'm excited for Trevor Lawrence. I also think he could be top 10 in the league in pass attempts. He was close to that last season as a rookie with Urban Meyer. So I think that the bull case for Trevor Lawrence is pretty good. I'm getting him in the 12th round as my second QB. And also on top of that, I will not have to draft another quarterback. I'll stick with 2 QBs, given the 2 QBs I got, Kyler Murray and Trevor Lawrence, in this draft. And I also like it in best ball because these drafts go on for a while till round 18, and I'll be able to stack him with Marvin Jones. And even later in the draft, I might be able to snag Evan Ingram as well. And And then we've successfully stacked both our quarterbacks, which is always good to do in best ball drafts, because we're, especially in a tournament like this, like you really need to shoot for the moon, the best case scenario for your team. Getting back to the comments, James Cook going to do anything? I feel like if there's one player that could sort of crush all of my best ball teams, like in one swoop, it might be James Cook. I feel like I haven't drafted him nearly enough, as much as I would like to. I like James Cook. I think I put him in my top 5 rookie players in my fantasy rankings, that video I posted on YouTube about a month ago now. He could be sort of a slightly lesser version of Dalvin Cook. He is Dalvin Cook's brother. They are different players, but he does have similar type of upside to what Dalvin Cook is in terms of talent. And if he is like 75% as talented as Dalvin Cook and he's on the Bills, he definitely can be a top 12 running back in fantasy. But Josh Allen will steal rushing touchdowns. And Devin Singletary is also going to steal a lot of work in his rookie season. So I don't think that this is going to be the big James Cook year. But if Devin Singletary gets hurt, or James Cook is a little bit more talented than I think, he really could be huge on what is projected to be the top scoring offense in the NFL. But Josh Allen stealing touchdowns will always be a problem, I think, for James Cook. I'm also very intrigued to see exactly how much he's involved in the passing game. Supposedly, he's going to be potentially the third down back, but Josh Allen historically has not thrown to his running backs very much. You think A.J. Dillon steals too much production from Aaron Jones? I was just talking about this with someone today, and Aaron Jones has actually performed. He's actually performed better in games with A.J. Dillon than without A.J. Dillon. And the reason is he's used more as a receiver when A.J. Dillon is also playing. And when he's not playing, when A.J. Dillon's not playing, they use him more as a runner, and they don't give him the extra receiving work. That's historically how it has gone in the 2 years that they've been together. So no, I don't think A.J. Dillon is necessarily bad for Aaron Jones. And this is especially true when you think of going into the season without Devontae Adams and who needs to step up as a receiver for the Packers. It very likely is going to be Aaron Jones who ends up stepping up in a big way for the Packers. And if that ends up happening in the receiving game, he's going to be a top 5 running back in fantasy. He might have some down weeks. He might not be as consistent as the other top 5 guys, but Aaron Jones could see 60 receptions this season or more. And if he does that, he's probably a top 5 running back in PPR leagues. So I think that there's a really strong case for Aaron Jones still, even with A.J. Dillon. And I love A.J. Dillon too. And I'm absolutely drafting A.J. Dillon. He's been one of my most drafted players. He's going in the 6th round because A.J. Dillon, he's one of the few running backs that has pretty strong standalone value. He's going to get half the carries, at least, for the Packers this season. And there's a good case that he actually gets a little bit more than half the carries this season if Aaron Jones is used more as a receiver, which means he has a pretty clear path to 10 touchdowns. But on top of that, if Aaron Jones does get injured, A.J. Dillon is winning you your fantasy football league. You're going to win your league if Aaron Jones gets injured and you have A.J. Dillon. Like that, there's no more competition on the team after that. They will give him 20-plus carries in a game, and he will be used as a receiver. So, yeah, you want A.J. Dillon on your fantasy team because he has a pretty safe floor and an extremely high ceiling. I mean, that's exactly what you want in the middle and late rounds of your draft. Drafting running back whose QB is Josh Allen, yeah, agreed. That was sort of my point as well. There's a good comment on the YouTube live that, you're inherently taking a risk by drafting a running back attached to Josh Allen because Josh Allen is so good at rushing, and he really will take a lot of the goal line carries and carries inside the 10 away. Oh my God, we have our first start sit question. I'm very excited about this over on YouTube, Brett. We have our first start sit question. You know it is fantasy football season when the start sit questions start rolling in. This is how you know drafts have been done and lineups are being tinkered. Absolutely love this. I absolutely love this. Start sit Bateman or Mooney in week 1. I got who are each of them playing? I don't remember the exact matchups. Oh, you haven't done your draft yet, Brett. Wow, I was so excited there. I thought we had our first start sit. I don't even know who each of them are playing though in week 1. I probably though would say I'd probably say Bateman, like in drafts at least. All right, I'm back on the clock. Noah Fant is still there. I'm gonna go with him and Marvin Jones, and then hopefully Evan Ingram will still be there with my next pick because I do want 3 tight ends. I have 2 tight ends right now, and then the rest of my picks probably 1 more running back. Tyler Aguilar wouldn't have been a horrible option there. I'll go probably 1 or 2 more running backs. I don't hate Jerick McKinnon either this late in the draft. Got me so excited about the start sit, and you were just joking. Starts. I've done my draft. DK or Amon-Ra St. Brown. The true first start sit. Honestly, DK Metcalf is going to be just extremely boom bust option. They're playing the Broncos in week 1. I do know that matchup because I've already wagered on that game. I already placed a pretty significant wager on the Denver Broncos against the Seattle Seahawks in Seattle on Monday Night Football in week 1. It's going to be a probably high scoring game, I would guess. But against the Broncos defense, I'd probably lean Amon-Ra. But the projections are definitely going to show DK Metcalf as number 1. So that's definitely a tough one. But in general, like the start sit questions before week 1, like you start the guys you drafted first. I mean, you got to be drafting your starting lineup. So start the guys that you were drafted first. Like that, week 1 is probably the easiest week. It's probably the easiest week to set your lineup. The easiest week. It's the hardest week to overthink. Like you drafted the guys in this order, start them in that order. Like there was a reason you drafted them in that order, right? So I generally do that, unless there's like rare circumstances, or you draft like DeAndre Hopkins or something and he's suspended the first 6 weeks. What do you think of Treylon Burks? He's starting, Ashton. He's starting to become like a screaming value in drafts. It started the opposite. It started like the Treylon Burks hype right after the draft was absolutely insane. It was crazy. It was like Treylon Burks is a top 12 wide receiver in fantasy. People thought Treylon Burks was the pretty clear wide receiver 1 in Dynasty. Everyone was in on Treylon Burks because they assumed he's just going to take the AJ Brown role after the trade. And then he had a absolutely horrible OTA where he really wasn't able to participate like even like 80% of the time because of conditioning or asthma or some combination of both. So that's obviously a bad sign. But Treylon Burks is still really good, and Treylon Burks is still going to be. He has a really good chance to be the wide receiver 1 in this rookie class. Like he definitely still can do that. When I did my rookie projections before the draft, I argued all 5 of the top 5 guys who I didn't include Jahan Dotson in that list. I didn't think he was going in the round 1, but he did. I think all 5 except for Jahan Dotson, they have a chance to be the number 1 overall rookie receiver this season. Treylon Burks is absolutely a beast after the catch. Like not quite to the level of AJ Brown, but close to the level of AJ Brown. I think a really good comparable for him is actually Jordy Nelson, who I think that's his ceiling. That's what I said in my rookie rankings when I posted the YouTube video about a month ago. I still think that's true. Like not that much has changed, though. I do think Robert Woods is going to be the wide receiver 1 for the Titans for at least like the first half of the season. That's why I love Robert Woods. But the further down Treylon Burks falls, the more willing I'm going to be able to draft him. He went in the 9th round in this draft, which is still a little early. Like he's still getting picked before Garrett Wilson. But I think round 10, round 9 is like when you can start considering it. I'm very excited for Christian Watson. There's been very, very little noise about Christian Watson really since he was drafted, which is a little bit surprising given the composition of the Packers. They asked Aaron Rodgers after the draft who he thought the starting receivers were, and he answered immediately. And he said, it's Sammy Watkins, Alan Lazard, and Randall Cobb. That was Aaron Rodgers' answer. That definitely concerning. That's a little concerning that those, in his eyes, are the best 3 receivers on the team. I think it could be tough for a rookie wide receiver in year 1 with Aaron Rodgers. All that being said, I mean, he's on the team. He's competing against Alan Lazard. He's competing against Randall Cobb. And he's competing against Sammy Watkins, who has literally fallen off the face of the earth the last 4 seasons. So I think Alan Lazard would lead the Packers in targets. I won't be shocked if it's Christian Watson second, but I think best case scenario for Christian Watson is like a late season boom. And I won't be surprised if he doesn't get drafted in most redraft leagues, like 10-person leagues. A 12-person leagues, he'll probably be like go towards the end of the draft, but he's not going to be a guy you can trust every single week to start the season. But he does have the upside to be like a Chase Claypool playing with Aaron Rodgers. And he is definitely the most athletic wide receiver that the Packers have. He's an absolute athletic freak. So there's definitely some upside there, but it's going to take some time. So you definitely need to be patient, especially seasonal leagues if you're drafting Christian Watson. We're 2 picks away, and Evan Ingram is still available, which you absolutely love to see. We're going to complete the Trevor Lawrence stack. Hopefully I don't jinx it, and he's not picked. Literally 1 pick ahead of me. And nope, he's still there. I don't really like drafting Mark Ingram. Like I don't think Mark Ingram has it anymore. But Alvin Kamara is going to get suspended, like very likely that he gets suspended. It is more likely than not that Alvin Kamara gets at least a 4 or 6 game suspension. And so, yeah, I'll take Mark Ingram in the 16th round. His average draft position will be higher after that. After the suspension comes, but there is still a small chance the suspension doesn't come till next season for him. Pick 13 in a 14-man. Who should be my target? Yeah, my longest tenured fantasy league is a 14-man league, and man, it is a different challenge than a 12-person league. With your 13th pick, though, like I would strongly consider going running back, especially in a 14-team league. The running backs dry up insanely fast, and you can get guys like Darnell Mooney, Rashad Bateman later in the draft after the first 3 rounds. I would leave the first 3 rounds with these 2 running backs, and I would be going after, if Dalvin Cook, Najee Harris slide, definitely would be going for them. I'd strongly consider DeAndre Swift, Joe Mixon, and Saquon Barkley and Aaron Jones. Like if you can get 2 of those guys with your first 2 picks, I would feel pretty good about that. The receivers there, though, could be pretty good as well. CeeDee Lamb, Devontae Adams, potentially. But I don't think I in a 14-team league, I would be going with Travis Kelce in the back end of the draft. Thoughts on CMC? Yeah, I think CMC should be considered with the first overall pick, but I think he definitely should be the second overall pick if he doesn't go first in every single draft. That's my take. I think there's a pretty good argument if you want to be safe. If you want to be safe, there's a good argument for Cooper Kupp and maybe even Justin Jefferson going second and third overall. They are safer, right? There's a much less risk of injury just with the positions in general, wide receiver and running back. Cooper Kupp and Justin Jefferson are much safer than Jonathan Taylor, and they're much safer than Christian McCaffrey. But Christian McCaffrey and Jonathan Taylor have more league-winning upside than Justin Jefferson and Cooper Kupp because they play running back, and they can really score significantly more points than other running backs, especially Christian McCaffrey, especially in PPR leagues. So I'm not drafting scared. I'm taking Christian McCaffrey with the second pick, and I'm strongly considering him with the first pick too, because I don't draft scared, and that's why I'm not scared to draft Saquon Barkley. So I'm not scared to draft Ezekiel Elliott at his cost. Like I'll take Saquon in the second round, and I will take Zeke in the 4th or 5th round, which is where they're all falling right now. And by the way, all three guys, Zeke, Saquon, and Christian McCaffrey, by all reports over the last months, are in some of the best shape and health that they've been in. Like they're not currently injured. If they were currently injured, that would obviously change things drastically. But what is happening right now and what's driving down the price is people just assume they know. They just assume they know people are going to get hurt. But injuries are actually very random and very hard to predict. And running backs historically get injured at a really high rate. Like 80% of week 1 running backs won't play in multiple games in the season. So, like, does Christian McCaffrey have a slightly higher risk than other running backs? Sure, maybe slightly. But, like, what's the difference between 80% and 85%? That's not a big enough difference to outweigh the upside that comes with Christian McCaffrey, who had the second best fantasy football season of all time just 2 years ago. So, yeah, that's my case for CMC. I'm not going to back down from it. I will be drafting Christian McCaffrey. I already know, like, on Yahoo and ESPN leagues, too, he's going to slide in a lot of drafts because people do draft scared. He's going to slide past the top 3 picks in PPR leagues. And I mean, if that happens, man, do you want the 4th or the 5th or the 6th pick? Wherever CMC is falling after the first pick, you should be excited to draft him and to have the chance to basically win your league in the first round as long as he stays healthy. And even if he doesn't stay healthy, but just stays healthy for 9 games. If Christian McCaffrey plays 9 games in the fantasy season, you're still probably going to have a pretty good chance to win your league. Like you're almost definitely going to make the playoffs. If you have Christian McCaffrey for 9 games, because he's going to score at least 20 points in like 8 of those games in PPR leagues because he catches so many passes. He is the only running back. There's only been 5 running backs in the history of the NFL to have 100 receptions in a season. And Christian McCaffrey has done it twice. He's the only guy that's done it twice. And he literally could do it a 3rd time this year. He's arguably the best receiving back of all time. So yeah, in PPR leagues, like draft Christian McCaffrey. Stop drafting scared. He does have a chance of injury. It's going to be super sad if he gets hurt again. Same thing with Saquon. Same thing with Zeke. But like these guys do have massive upside, and it outweighs the risk, in my opinion. If you want to play it safe, you go with Cooper Kupp. You go with Justin Jefferson. Where do you think Henry falls? Yeah, he's been falling a lot in these drafts. I feel like in traditional season-long leagues, he won't fall as far. I think in your traditional season-long league with your friends, Derrick Henry will go top 5. But I've seen him fall as late as 10 in the drafts I've been doing recently. Usually he goes between 5 and 8. He went 7th overall in the draft I'm doing right now. So yeah, but don't sleep on Derrick Henry, sort of for the same reason as Saquon, CMC, as Ezekiel Elliott. He doesn't have the same receiving upside, but Derrick Henry is one of the best runners of all time. He is the only running back in the history of the NFL to have 3 straight seasons where he averaged over 100 rushing yards per game. Think about how insane that is. 3 consecutive seasons with over 100 rushing yards per game. And the last person to do it in 2 straight seasons was Barry Sanders. And that was back in the 90s. So Derrick Henry's a beast. Obviously, the health is the big thing with him too. And he does get a lot of touches, and he has no competition for touches yet again this season. I'm actually going to go with Laviska Shenault here. Continue the Jacksonville stacking. We have 1 pick left in this draft. We'll probably go running back. I'll take either. I'll probably take one of these guys as my 6th running back in this draft. We got 1 pick left. If you're still watching live on YouTube, I appreciate you. There is nothing more valuable, guys, than time. Time is your most valuable thing. I always appreciate you spending some time with me on these streams. We got one round left, and then we will be wrapping up. Or actually, that was my last pick. Just kidding. I don't get to sneak in a 6th running back. I took a 8th receiver. So this is the squad. I don't hate this. I'm glad I took the running backs that I did. Running back's definitely the weakest part of this team, so it's good that I didn't pass on Zeke. I have the whole Cowboys backfield, which I like, but it's going to leave me pretty weak if DeAndre Swift or Kenneth Walker go down. So definitely swinging for the fences in terms of the running backs here. Going to need Swift to stay healthy, and need Kenneth Walker to break out as well. But I did stack Kyler Murray. I did stack Trevor Lawrence. Devontae Adams and Keenan Allen early too. I do like the receivers a lot. I do like the tight ends I ended up with too, and I like that I got 3. Guys, that is a shot at $2 million. I like the shot we have at $2 million. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in, YouTube Live. I'll be back live every single week doing drafts every single week leading up to the season. They're probably going to become multi-time a week things very soon, definitely by the beginning of August. I will wrap up on the TikTok live in like 2 minutes, and I'll try to get to as many questions as I can there before I end the stream completely. For the YouTube people, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back very soon.